Mid-19th century antebellum America is an era often defined by sectional crises, political dissent, and economic turmoil, which often overshadow the religious revivals that swept across the country. One of the most well-known denominations to emerge from that time period was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, more commonly known as the Mormon Church. As one of the most controversial religions in modern history, the Mormon Church suffered through turbulent Supreme Court rulings, constant rejection from non-Mormons, and extreme political and social intolerance. At the helm of every Mormon decision was Joseph Smith, possessor of the unique title of American Prophet. Born on December 23, 1805 in Sharon, Vermont, Smith first entered the gates of a religious life upon having a vision of the angel Moroni. Remembering the experience, Smith recounted,
"I had actually seen a light, and in the midst of that light I saw two personages, and they did in reality speak to me. And though I was hated and persecuted for saying that I had seen a vision, yet it was true, I had seen a vision. I knew it, and I knew that God knew it, and I could not deny it, neither dared I do it. At least I knew that by doing so I would offend God and come under his condemnation."
The angel Moroni revealed to Smith the location of a set of golden plates with religious scriptures engraved on them, buried under a hill near his home. Being unable to remove the plates from their point of burial, Smith returned to the hill several times in order to translate the writings. In 1830, Smith published these transcriptions in a collection he called the Book of Mormon. The Church of Christ was collectively founded in upstate New York by Smith, his two brothers Hiram and Samuel, his scribe Oliver Cowdery, and Smith's friends and witnesses of the plates, Peter and David Whitmer. Upon gaining a small but growing following, Smith moved the central location of his church to Jackson County, Missouri, where he believed the Garden of Eden to be located. His followers, who now referred to themselves as Mormons, were not greeted with a warm welcome by northern Missourians. Political and economic cohesion led the Mormons to gain a hold on the region and dominate local elections and economies, opposing all of the county's natural beliefs. Strong anti-Mormon mobs formed an uprising known today as the 1838 Mormon War, in an attempt to earn back their county. Eventually, Smith and other Mormon leaders were tried and driven out of Missouri and ended up settling in the border town of Nauvoo, Illinois. Early in their time in Nauvoo, Smith and the Mormons set up a temple, a newspaper, a courthouse, a university, and a militia. The first direct allegation against Smith occurred when John C. Bennett, an excommunicated Mormon, accused Smith of involvement in the assassination of Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs. Bennett stated in the Sangamo Journal,
"In 1841, Joseph Smith predicted or prophesied in a public congregation in Nauvoo that Lilburn W. Boggs, ex-governor of Missouri, should die by violent hands within 1 year. I was then on terms of close intimacy with Joseph Smith, and asked him where my fellow Mormon porter Rockwell had gone. 'Gone,' he said. 'Gone to fulfill the prophecy.' Rockwell returned to Nauvoo the day before the report of the assassination reached there."
Smith and Rockwell were arrested in Missouri but ordered to be freed by the municipal court of Nauvoo. The Missouri state government originally denied the authority of the court, but eventually issued Smith to be released. The prophet's freedom did not last very long, however, as only about 4 months later he was arrested by Governor Joseph Reynolds of Davis County, Missouri, for treason against the state. Reynolds was then arrested by a sheriff from Illinois, and along with Smith was transported to the municipal court of Nauvoo, where all men were freed. In June of 1884, several excommunicated Mormons started a newspaper under the title Nauvoo Expositor. The paper's first and only issue was extremely critical of Smith, specifically his lifestyle, which included the controversial Mormon belief of polygamy. Smith ordered all publications to be destroyed, but was arrested by the Hancock County Court for inciting a riot. Before ever appearing in front of a court, Smith ordered the Nauvoo Municipal Court to drop all charges against him, while also declaring the city of Nauvoo under martial law and called for the Nauvoo Legion, the local militia. Illinois Governor Thomas Ford once again called for the arrest of Smith, and after a brief retreat to Iowa, Smith was arrested but released on a $500 bail. After granted this bail, however, the court issued a warrant that stated,
"Joseph Smith, late of the county aforesaid, did on or about the 19th day of June, A.D. 1844, at the county and state aforesaid, commit the crime of treason against the government and people of the state of Illinois."
Bail could not be legally granted for a crime of treason, and Smith was thrown in jail for the final time. In all, Smith was tried or attempted to be tried for at least 15 different wrongdoings over a 10-year period, and escaped at least a third of those by fleeing the county in which he was being tried. On June 27, 1844, Joseph and Hiram Smith were awaiting trial in the Carthage jail. A small militia called the Carthage Greys were dispatched to protect the Smith brothers due to many death threats that had been sent in the wake of their arrest. While the Carthage Greys stood guard outside, a mob of about 200 men with faces painted black with gunpowder advanced toward the jail. Some reports state that the Greys shot blanks at the mob, while others claim that several members of the militia joined the mob and broke into the jailhouse. The mob rushed up the stairs and shot Hiram fatally in the head. Joseph drew a pistol that had been smuggled to him and shot at least 3 of his attackers. He then ran towards the window and attempted to escape until he was shot twice in the back and fell out of the window onto the ground. The mob then assembled a makeshift firing squad, executed Smith, and finally dissipated before being apprehended. After the death of American prophet Joseph Smith, there was an immediate and sorrowful response from the Mormon community, yet very little acknowledgement by the local, state, or federal governments. In fact, just after the assassination of Smith, Illinois Governor Thomas Ford, who was in Nauvoo at the time of the assassination, hastily left the city with his entourage without even a word in recognition of the events that had transpired. Within the Nauvoo Mormon community, the reaction to Smith's death could not have been more sorrowful. There was a mass sadness that swept over the entire city, but none were more harshly affected than Joseph's family. According to Smith's eldest son, Joseph III, Smith's wife sat up beside her husband's coffin in the living room of their mansion in Nauvoo and many times cried out,
"Oh, Joseph, Joseph! Oh, my husband! Have they taken you from me at last?"
The slaying of Joseph and Hiram also resulted in total destabilization of the church at its very highest levels. Brigham Young, president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and now the senior church official charged with leading the Mormons, was able to establish some legitimacy as its new president. But the church also splintered into a few factions, led by other church members claiming the presidency. Eventually, with the support of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, Young was elected the president of the Quorum of the 12 and the first presidency of the church, thus assuming command of the Mormon church. Young would not be ordained president until December 1847, nearly 2.5 years after Smith's assassination. The mass reaction to Smith's death and the presidential succession crisis that followed signified one very important fact, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints relied extremely heavily on their young prophet, Joseph Smith, and found it very hard to see their future in the land of Deseret without him. It is quite befitting that one of history's most controversial religious figures also has one of the most hotly contested legacies in modern history. In the minds of many Mormons, Joseph Smith is seen as one of history's most valiant martyrs, dying not only for what he believed in, but for what he had taught thousands of followers to do by leading by example. One of Mormonism's most popular hymns goes as follows.
Praise to his memory, he died as a martyr, honored and blessed be his ever great name. Long shall his blood, which was shed by assassins, plead unto heaven while the earth lauds his fame. Hail to the prophet, ascended to heaven. Traitors and tyrants now fight him in vain. Mingling with gods, he can plan for his brethren. Death cannot conquer the hero again.
Many Mormons still believe to this day that Joseph Smith was someone who, for his entire life, was willing to give up his own mortal life for his religious beliefs and the teachings that he brought into this world. Unfortunately, not all agree with that idea. Eric Johnson, an experienced researcher, analytical writer, and historian for the Christian Research Institute, claims that Smith's actions in the weeks leading up to his murder, Johnson specifically refrains from using the word martyrdom, prove that he was not willing to completely and unconditionally sacrifice his own life for his beliefs or for his followers. Johnson claims that if Smith was willing to sacrifice his life for his religious beliefs, then he would not have illegally discontinued the Nauvoo Expositor, called upon the Nauvoo Legion to defend him at the Carthage jail, or would not have shot at the mob that was trying to kill him. As one of the most controversial and hated figures in American history, it isn't surprising that Joseph Smith's legacy is one of the most vigorously debated subjects in modern-day religion.